I had gotten in the habit, which I'd recommend anyone do if you have any entrepreneurial interest or bent, is just find like-minded people and meet with them regularly. Not with an agenda, not with a direction, not with a specific idea necessarily, but just to spitball, brainstorm, and to be in the company of people who at least like to think the way you like to think. And so another thing that I had done while I was at the dealership is I've always loved Lamborghini Marcial, and they didn't make that many that were true manual gearboxes, and that's something I just love. And so one thing that I did is I had built up my credit so well through financing all the cars for the exotic car rental company that I could get a huge loan to buy just about whatever I wanted. And so I found a terrific example of a manual LP640, which is kind of the most advanced generation of the car that they made from 02 to 010. These were 07, 08s, and 09s. And once I bought one, I had a theory that they were a lot more rare than anybody kind of let on, because once these sequential manual gearboxes got popular, it was a huge market acceptance rate. And so you'd see at least 90+%, but what it ended up being was almost 98, 99% on some models.
People go into the sequential
sequentials. Yeah. And so I started making a list of all the VINs of all the cars.
What year was this now?
This would have been in 2012.
Okay.
This would have been in 2015 when I bought that car. And so I released a list of all the VINs of all the cars that I had researched to figure out that they were real sticks. And when I did that and put it online, RM referenced it for an auction, all these people started sharing it, and it ended up making the values of all of the cars, all 26 that I had found, double in value. Now since then I've found a couple of more. So there's 28 US cars that are true manuals, and about 11 have been damaged, totaled, or modified unaffectionately. And so that caused the value to just skyrocket, and I was able to use the profit from that first flip to buy the least nice example. It was a theft recovery accident car that I loved. I could drive guiltlessly, put as many miles on it as I wanted, and I bought it for less than I made on the first one, so it was my dream car for free. Right. And noticing the power that you could have with really curation of that kind of data was just awesome. So taking note of the power that you could wield by really curating the history of cars yourself and as a group is really where the idea of VINwiki came from. And we describe VINwiki as a social version of Carfax, or a crowdsourced vehicle history reporting platform. And we just give anybody kind of an open-ended app that allows them to post just about anything they want to a car by its VIN or by its license plate, which we end up referencing to the VIN from the state systems. And
so basically, if I go on VINwiki and I find my old 98 Honda Prelude,
exactly,
I can attach a story to it.
Yes, and you can see what's happened to it since then, what other people have said about it, where it's shown up and things like that. And so I love that, because early on I had made a list of all the VINs of all the cars I'd ever owned through the rental company and other car flips and crazy buying expeditions and stuff like that. And so that allowed me to kind of zoom out and see what would happen, because people would Google their VINs and find my website and message me. So I found out that one of my Land Rovers had been exported to Russia, another one had gone through an auction in Miami and was in Puerto Rico. That first Lamborghini that I bought for Supercar Rentals got exported to Hong Kong. And so just finding out which ones got crashed, which ones got fixed, and just learning all these things that we don't normally get to know about the cars that we love but move on to the next one with. And so VINwiki was designed to really do those three things: allow you to control the history, allow you to curate the history of rare cars, and also to let you see beyond what normal ownership looks like.
Does it have to be rare cars or any car?
No, we've got about 165 million cars in the database right now. There's about 300 million cars that have ever been sold in the United States. And so we're creeping up on that, and we get more and more cars each day. And we're having fun letting it grow.
How does a car get in there? Does somebody have to put it in there initially, or?
So we do some web crawling for classified listings and integration of larger data sets, but usually the most valuable data that we find is when someone posts, like, hey, this weekend me and my kid changed the oil in the driveway. Like, documenting that DIY service is always a great way to go about it.
had the idea, and then what was the next step? Did you go out and find somebody to build the app?
I did. Well, so in these meetings where we'd have people come together, in one of them I had Dave Black, who was my co-driver from the New York to LA record, and Dan Wong, who rode behind us in the as a navigator and support passenger. And Dave was a back-end architect for Apple, and Dan was a front-end iOS developer, and he worked for Cycloramic and Car360 and some other prolific Atlanta startups like Yik Yak, and so he was a great developer. I had another friend that was a web front-end developer, and another guy that had more technical chops than I do, which I'll happily concede. And so
How did you know all these guys? Are they from...
Just from car stuff. So, cars that had brought us together for a car-related idea just happened to be the coincidence of technological prowess. And so putting all those pieces together, I was like, look, seems like we could put this together and spin up an MVP model. And so we did that. And so over the first 3 months of 2016, we built the VINwiki app. We tested through, I think, 48 different revisions and releases, and then we rolled it out iOS only. And so we outsourced a very simplistic Android build, which I'll happily concede to this day leaves a lot to be desired, but we were really just trying to prove the concept out. Like, is this something that people are going to use?
Classic MVP, get it out there, see what the product market fit is.
And what we found was this was not all things to all car guys. It wasn't going to be that. This isn't Facebook for cars. It's a thing that people who care about properly dealing with vehicle history and curating registries of rare cars and making sure that they document their own car in the best way rather than just shoving receipts into a glove box. This was a way for them to really grab a hold of the story of their car. And they were doing that. It worked really, really well.
So people, through the lifetime of their car, they're telling the stories as they own the car.
Exactly.
And then so that way when somebody comes and buys a car, there's this whole documentation of not just the numbers, but all the personal stories that have gone through the years with the car as well.
Correct. And we saw people getting that. So the road from figuring out, all right, there are people that care about this, to we've got to scale it, we've got to make it fit, that takes a lot of iteration, a lot of development, and a lot of work. And these guys, in that year of trying to figure out just how people were using it, I was the only one really devoting myself full-time to the idea of VINwiki. And that was fine. It was a great time in my life to just get to spend with our users, figuring out exactly what they loved about the app and what else they might want. But we were still, as an early stage startup, struggling with how do you market this?
Right.
And I had a lot of friends that did a lot on social media, on big Instagram accounts, on big YouTube channels and things like that. And when they would share our stuff, we would figure out that we got a lot of new users. It was a great way to market. But, I mean, anytime you're going to start pumping ads out there in front of people, it gets really expensive. And so one of the taglines we used early on is, "You are your car's story." And we wanted people to change the way they looked at automotive history by looking more at the people that were interacting with the cars. So I called a bunch of friends and I said, hey, let's all come out to my warehouse one day. We'll sit around, have pizza and beer, and we'll tell car stories. And so we shot our first 25 videos for a channel that had no audience at all, and just started releasing videos on YouTube of me and my friends sitting around telling car stories. So this was at July of 2017 when the app was right at a year old. And we had about 5,000 really dedicated, great people in the app that understood what we were trying to do and were kind of willing to live through some of the growing pains.
And how did you get that first 5,000?
Just word of mouth, people telling people. A few news articles that I could call in favors for and get it in Jalopnik or Drive Tribe or something like that. But obviously an app of 5,000 people doesn't go anywhere fast. So we needed to get more exposure. And when I would have somebody come drive one of my cars and make a YouTube video about it, we'd see a nice little uptick of a few hundred new users, which at that point was mind-blowing. And so we were really excited about all that, but we wanted to keep it growing. And so we decided, I guess, well, we'll see if we can start our own YouTube channel. And we did. And it went gangbusters. I mean, we thought, all right, we're going to make these 25 videos. Let's say we average 2,000 views a video. That'd be awesome. If that does that, then we'll make some more.
Right.
Well, we got 800,000 views for those first ones and decided, look, we've got to keep doing this within the first month.
First month.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. and people were sharing them and loving them and just enjoying the stories. And I had composed a lot of my personal car stories as part of my book about the New York to LA record, because I'd released that in 2000, early 16, and just on Amazon, self-published it. But, you know, honestly, a story about three guys uneventfully speeding across the country isn't all that compelling. So I would mix in different stories from the car business and stuff like that.
Okay. So you put these videos, the initial videos out there, and immediately you started getting all these hits.
Yeah, tons of traffic.
And how did that, I mean, it's just kind of like...
Well, we saw different articles that pick them up, and they'd be shared in different prolific locations through Auto Trader or Jalopnik or Drive Tribe or The Drive, and all of these kind of automotive media properties. They were getting a lot of attention. And it started to grow, but it very immediately showed us that this is going to have to become someone's full-time job. And the editor that had helped me with the first ones didn't want that to be his full-time job. He had professional movie obligations, and so he didn't want to be a YouTuber, and I can understand that. But I figured we got to keep doing this. It's the best marketing we've ever had, and on some time horizon, I've been told that you make money on YouTube. And so I bought all the camera equipment, everything we needed, and just started trying to figure out how to do it, and, you know, learned the editing software and everything like that, and just started learning. And so there's like 25 really, really good ones, and then there's about 20 abysmal failures that I was doing, just learning how it worked.
Right.
And, you know, I'd render it out at the wrong frame rate, or I'd have it cropped terribly, or just everything. The audio was awful. But everybody kept watching them, even as bad as they were. And so we started to get millions and millions of views on these videos, and they were kind of evergreen content, so there wasn't really like an expiration on when people would stop watching. So they just kept getting views, and we kept making them. You start to learn about how all of YouTube's algorithms work and how you can kind of, you know, make people watch and hope they keep watching, and, you know, serve up the videos in a way that they like. And it's all about consistency and constant release of quality content. It's been the best content marketing strategy we ever could have dreamt of, and at this point it at least pays enough to keep the servers spinning. So it's been an amazing transformation to the audience that we have in the app, but certainly to the awareness that we have for what we're trying to do here at VINwiki. And it's not designed to be a constant slap you in the face commercial about download this app. It's designed to be entertaining content where each of the stories is essentially an example of a blown up version of one of the stories that might be a great post in the app.
Okay. So tell me some of the kind of the craziest stories you've had on.
So some of the stories that have gone well, I bought a Lamborghini from a local prostitute while I was working at Lamborghini Atlanta, so that was a good one. My wife actually bought a Ferrari from a guy that T-Pain had given it as a birthday present. He was one of his rappers on his label. I took a cop for a ride once in a Lamborghini, and we went 196 miles an hour.
Wow. Where was that?
Down by the Masters. We were doing press drives with Callaway at the Masters. Our users came together and we found 2 stolen Lamborghinis that had been missing for 6 years by combining different lists of cars in the app and posts, and people that had spotted different cars, different places, and so we were able to recover those for the owners. I talked about some crazy car selling, car test driving, car stories from the dealership times. Give some advice on like how people can finance exotic cars, or the best roads they can go drive on, or trips. We talk about cannonball stuff. We want it to be useful content. I mean, I want it to be something that somebody's thought like, all right, I've got a great car in Atlanta, but I need to go know where to use it. Or I've always heard about the Cannonball Run. I want to see what will happen.
You've never raised money for the app development, right? Or
I haven't. No. I mean, I had obviously saved some money up to be ready to take some time off at the dealership, and so I never expected to go over 2 years without making $1, but sometimes that's what happens. I mean, it's the nature of being an entrepreneur, and it's the nature of technology. And one of the things that we've always known about the idea of VINwiki is that it fits much better as a special sauce on top of a larger automotive data platform. And there's so many great players in that space with Cox Automotive in town, and everyone that's innovating through Carfax and IHS and Market, and all these other great upstarts like Car Gurus. And we've spoken to all of them about where they see us falling on the roadmap, at different points where they'd have more of an appetite for acquisition. And so, not worrying so much about putting a bunch of ads in the face of our users while we can, magically make some money off making videos on the internet has just been the perfect serendipitous outcome for us in fundraising and funding this app.
So I guess that I could see that like the perfect fit would be as you're searching for a used car, you go on Car Gurus or Auto Trader, and you've got your typical information about the car, you got the Carfax info, then you've also got the story, you've got the personal history of the car along with it, and you can even reach out to some of the past owners potentially and discuss with them. So that would really be the ideal. I think, is that the ultimate?
It is, yeah, that we combine it with some of the more formulaic tabular data that you would get from a normal vehicle history reporting platform, but that you also get some of this stuff that you can't find anywhere else.
Well, Ed, I am excited to see what comes next. This has been really a lot of fun, and it's been a pleasure to spend time with you.
Thanks for coming out. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you for being on Techrides.
Now hit it.